My name is Leigh Wasmuth, and I've been married to my husband Dan for almost 20 years. I was working at Fitness World.
And I saw her at the front doors, and yeah, I was just like, wow, she's beautiful.
And he was working out, and he kept asking me out.
I think I harassed her for quite a while.
I said, no, thank you.
The second time?
I said no.
I kept bugging her to hang out. She kept saying no.
And then the third time, he said, I'm not going to ask you again, but would you consider going out with me? And I said, well, you can give me your phone number and I'll call you.
And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I got a call from Leigh to hang out, which shocked me. And that was the beginning.
What's great about Dan is that he's the oldest of 6 kids, so he's very strong and he's a natural leader, and that's something that I needed. And he's led myself and our family through the years. Dan has always been a solid guy. He grew up as a Christian, and I'd never met anybody like him before. I had kind of dated bad guys. And he took me to church. He had strong morals, and he was really close with his family. And he also said things like hokey doodle. So it was just like all new to me, this guy. But he's always been a solid guy. So when we were dating, first started dating, Dan had said that he would be true to me. And that really resonated with me because I had never experienced someone being true to me before. So I grew up in Manitoba. I had 2 wonderful parents who worked really hard to support us, and I moved out here when I was in grade 7. My dad was transferred out from Manitoba to BC. He was the general manager for Siemens Canada, and so work brought us out here. And life out here was very different from prairie life. So Manitoba is a much more laid-back province, and when I came out to White Rock, it was quite different, more advanced and more worldly. It was hard to make friends, so I settled for whoever would have me. So when I was 14, we went to my friend's father's place in Ashcroft. We went to his trailer, and he provided us drugs, and we all partook together. And that evening, he held a gun to my head, asking me if I liked that, and I was terrified. I would attach myself to whoever would show interest. And I think it's because I always desired to be loved by my dad, and he was a very busy man. And so I put a lot of emphasis on getting attention from boys. I felt accepted. I started dating a guy who was older, graduated from high school, and he showed me like the nightlife and just what it was like to be older. And by 16, I found myself pregnant. And that was devastating. I did not want to be pregnant. Did I want to have children when I was older? Absolutely. That was my dream, was to be a mom. I needed to move on and have a teenage life. I wasn't ready to be a mom. Well, I had tried to starve myself thinking that I would miscarry, and that's not what happened. I just went further along, and I ended up having an abortion in the States because I was too far along to have it done in Canada. And after it was over, I was extremely gutted. It was pure evil, and I had instant regret, and it's haunted me most of my adult life. My mother-in-law was president of Abortion Canada, and so they were very passionate about the subject, and it would be talked about quite often, and I would just sit there in shame. I was like, I can't ever tell him. He'll dump me. And so I didn't tell him until we were about to have our own children. And I thought, I have to tell him. He needs to know. And I told him.
It was at night time, and she was crying. I saw her in the bedroom crying, and she, so what's going on? And she's like, I got something to talk about.
And I was worried he would be very upset with me, but he only had love and grace for me.
All I could feel was sorry for her. I felt compassion for her. I loved her. That's the first thing that kind of came forward was she's like, I don't think I can do this with you.
I didn't feel forgivable. I have 3 children, and they're my world, and I'm missing one of them. They're not here, and I did that. It's on me. And I always thought, how can God forgive me for what I've done? I've killed one of my babies. It took a long time, but I finally realized that I am forgiven. God, Jesus' blood covers all sins, all of them. And it took too long to figure that out. So every year we usually go camping, Canada Day long weekend. And we were up in Whistler camping with our friends. And I'm about to have a shower. My daughter and her friend are doing their thing in the bathroom, and Dan is at the sinks washing dishes. And I get a phone call from my sister, and she says, Dad has committed suicide. And I, in shock, say, committed or attempted? And she said, he's gone. And I drop and I howl. I went out to Dan and we embraced and talked about what was happening. And I ran back in my towel and I dropped to the floor and I cried out to God. We moved my mom into our home to take care of her and get her out of the house where she found him. So we thought this was awful. Like, it can't get any worse than this. So shortly after the trauma of my dad passing, I started to get these weird headaches. And at first I ignored them, but then couldn't ignore them anymore. I called my doctor and she got me in for a CT scan right away. And that evening she called and told me that I had a mass on my frontal lobe. The doctor said something like this could be life-changing. And then I ended up getting an MRI, and my neurosurgeon thought it was a low-grade glioma. We would just leave it and re-MRI in 6 months. No biopsy, nothing, move on. And after that, we carried on and tried to just go on with life. And then the headaches came on really strong. I was getting uncontrollable vomiting, unbearable pain. And the surgeon thought it was not connected. So it was time to move on from him and find a new neurosurgeon. And I ended up in ER again. And there I met with my new neurosurgeon, and he bumped up the MRI to right away. There they discovered that the mass had grown significantly, that they were going to bypass the biopsy and go directly in for craniotomy, resection of my brain. So they were going to remove part of it, but the tumor had reached an area where they couldn't operate, so they would leave behind some tumor. So it's crazy because I had people praying for me since I had my CT scan, and one thing that they were praying for was peace. It's so crazy how much peace I was filled with. I didn't like the idea. I didn't like the idea of having brain surgery, but I had peace with it, if that's as crazy as that sounds. So the day of surgery, we're on our way, and the song Christine DeMarco, It Is Well, is played on repeat. And it's a song about letting go and giving it all to God. And honestly, that's all I could do because this is just way too big. So we check in, get all prepped and ready for surgery, and the doctor comes in and he says, do you have any questions? And I'm thinking to myself, honestly, it's brain surgery. I have no idea what to ask. And then when I woke up, I was ecstatic, groggy, but ecstatic. I could remember my full name, my birth date, and I recognized my husband. For recovery, I was at my mom's house, and we got to sit and look at old photo albums, and we shared meals together. It was lovely. And I was ecstatic. It was like I had a new lease on life. If I could conquer brain surgery, what can be against me? I did get hung up on one thing. I had a train track of staples across my head from ear to ear. It really bothered me. I didn't want to touch it. I hated it. And it got me down. And then I was like, I have to give this over to God. And so I prayed, God, please help me face my train track, the beast on my head. Help me in the shower, because I needed a shower desperately. And as I sat there, almost like immediately, I had this feeling like a bug rising out of my scalp, tickling my hair. And then it went forward to my wound, and then it played like 1,000 tiny fingers down the length of my wound. And it did that 3 times. And I just sat there in awe, like, God, like, this is so crazy. So I was like, okay, I will get up and go have a shower. And I had a shower, and it wasn't that bad. And then I was singing and dancing again. I got the phone call. BC Cancer was calling, and set up my first appointment. And there we find out the severity of my diagnosis.
We were really afraid. I think after the surgery went so well, we were so, I don't know, riding a high.
My tumor was a glioblastoma, which is the most aggressive brain tumor out there. And they gave me 12 months to 18 months.
I lost it in that meeting. That was the, oh man. There was a lot of hard days, hard nights, but that was one of the worst.
That was a huge, huge blow. It was devastating. Absolutely awful. So when the doctor told me I was gonna die within a year, I said no. I said, no, that's not okay. That's not gonna be me. I'm gonna be an anomaly.
She was gonna fight, and it didn't matter what he said, that we're gonna fight, we're gonna pray.
But you also doubt that, right? When you're told that, you say no, or I said no, but then you also, you're just in such shock that this is actually your life and this is happening to you. It was like fight or flight mode after that for about 3 weeks, where my resting heart rate was 125. Yeah, I don't think you could have worse news than telling a mother that you're gonna leave your children behind. It was a long, hard journey of radiation, chemo, MRIs, and endless needles. It was 10 months filled with just being so tired, so drained, and ever nauseous. Every day was a battle to keep food down. I went down to 115 pounds, and I did everything I could. I don't think God allows a miracle without you putting the work in and getting on your knees every day, praying for a miracle. I prayed for a miracle every day. Lord, make a miracle out of me. I want to be here for my children. I want to raise my children. I want to walk them down the aisle. I want to hold my grandbabies. So that's what I did. I prayed for a miracle. My lowest moment was when I had lost a significant amount of hair, and my children shaved my head, and I had the same hair forever, but I guess it was time for a new look. It was awful. I did not like it. But after my children kissed my head, my bald head, and they said, Mom, you're still beautiful. You can't have beautiful moments like that in normal circumstances. After 10 months of chemo and radiation and the loss of my hair and my eyebrow, I went for a follow-up MRI. We went in and reviewed the MRI with our doctor, and no evidence of disease. It was all clear. Even where there was tumor left behind, it was empty. Hallelujah. Praise Jesus. Now, this crazy, awful adventure is not one that I thought I would ever be going through or desire, but I have never been closer to God. He has carried me this entire journey. He's provided for my every need. He has been tangible, like real. He has been very clear with me to trust him. Even one night he gave me a vision in my sleep. It was a shining bright white letter that stated clean bill of health. And I was like, okay, God, I trust you. So through my suffering, I have so much to be thankful for. My family has grown closer together. My friends and family and church have provided for us and surrounded us with love. We had meals delivered to us for an entire year. That's amazing. I also realized that my outcome could have been way worse. I could have had loss of mobility, lost my memories, my personality. I could have loss of speech, have constant seizures, but it's like I went through the fires and I came out untouched, like the Bible says. The Bible also says you don't give thanks in pleasant circumstances. It says to give thanks in all circumstances. So that's exactly what I do. I wake up every morning and I thank God for the breath that I breathe every morning. And I thank him for the day that he has made. I've made short-term and long-term goals for my life. Short-term is to raise my children, serve at the community kitchen, serve at church, serve wherever I can. I would like to go to Costa Rica and hug a monkey, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. Long-term goals is share my story and hopefully reach people for Christ with it and let them see how present God was with me through my struggle, through my suffering. You need a personal relationship with Jesus to get you through life because honestly, life is hard. Like I feel like I'm a living miracle, but doesn't mean I'm gonna have a fairy tale life. It's gonna be real. It's gonna come with ups and downs, and I want Jesus beside me through it all because he is my refuge in whom I trust everything to. So I heard a story that the world needs more stories. They have the ability to impact and connect people. And I hope that my story has done just that. And that you realize that you need Jesus in your life